How you doing, Year 7s? Mr. Coleman here, Whitmore High School. Just want to show you how to mark out the front piece using your template with the datum, the mark points and your plywood. Okay, first of all we're going to get a tri-square. Here, quickly go over to my cupboard, get a tri-square. We're going to use that across the ends to make sure we have symmetry so that it's exactly the same on both sides. So that you can see this clearly, I'm going to use a whiteboard marker so that you can see it. Obviously you're not going to use a whiteboard marker, you're going to use a pencil. You put your datum edge, or your best edge, to the end grain of the plywood, like that. It's on the end grain, so the datum goes on the end grain. Place it where you want it. Mark point, mark on the two edges. I'm just very simply just going to show you how to mark the two mark points. That's very clear there. Just trying to get it to see, and here we go. Up there. Okay. Now, then with the two mark points, you get your tri-square. Mark it across the end grain of the plywood and do the exact same for the other mark point. The reason why we do this is that you know that when you turn the dog face, you're in symmetry. I'm going to mark it, bring it over the edge. And then on the side I have an X marked, which you should see there. I'm now going to, just like what you do with your shirt first thing in the morning, you tuck it in. So going on the datum as your edge, tuck it in and match your mark points up to your datum edge. So now we can see this is in symmetry. Going to use a few X's just to remind me of where the waist is. And now I'm going to start processing it. So, if you can see me, bring the camera down, make sure you can see it. I'm going to use two types of saw. First of all, I'm going to use a Tenon saw for cutting relief cuts. I'm going to use a pistol grip when I'm using my Tenon saw. It's a very strong saw. It's got a brass rib on the top and it's usually used for cutting straight. Then on the other hand, you've got a coping saw. Now the coping saw has got two sighting pins which must line up. It's got a frame and a handle. Make sure that your hands are on the frame at all times. You're going to use the coping saw for cutting the curve. With the Tenon saw, I'm going to take off as much of the waste as possible. So I'm going to, with the pistol grip, I'm going to start cutting straight down into the wood. Open the vise and close it again and cut down straight. Now, some of you may find this quite difficult, so just to get started with any cut, I'm now going to go to the bottom, which is technically the hardest. We're going to do relief cuts, cut straight down to the curve. Now I'm going to very, very slowly this time show you how I want you to cut this. So start off any cut with the Tenon saw. What you do is you get your thumb, you put it to the side of where you want to cut. You could also use your nail. That's going to start the cut. Make a gentle move backwards towards you. Get your thumb out of the way. Now what you should hear when you're sawing is the saw should giggle back at you, like hee hee, like that. Make sure that you have a pistol grip and listen to it giggle back. Now I'm going to go straight down to the curve. Listen to it giggle back at you. So then the next part, I'm just going to very quickly show you the 3 relief cuts. They're going to now make it much easier from when I'm using the coping saw. Now the coping saw, I'm going to make sure before I use it that it's tight. So I'm going to hold the sighting pin that's closest to the handle. I'm going to hold that in line with the frame and turn it clockwise. Make sure that it's nice and tight and that the blade is taut. Make sure that the teeth are going the right way as well. I'm going to now cut down the slope. Now I'm going to explain cutting down the slope to you. It's very, very difficult to use a coping saw if you're cutting up the way. It's very difficult to cut up like that, especially when stuff like, say, the table or other things are in your way. So always cut down the slope. Just going to mark that for you. So you're going to cut down that way, and then once you get to that middle relief cut that I made with the coping saw, or sorry, with the tenon saw, then you're going to turn and you're going to come from the opposite side. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to zoom in properly now so you can see me. Okay. Very important when you're using a coping saw, make sure that you keep the blade level with the table. Do not put your hands on the frame, and when you're cutting and you come into a corner, you always keep cutting and turn the blade as you cut. You don't want the blade to twist. Now this is a blade that's already twisted. As you can see, you've got one sighting pin is not at the same angle as the other sighting pin. That blade is very dangerous and it could snap at any moment. If by chance you do break a blade, it happens sometimes, make sure you hand it to the teacher so that they can dispose of it safely. Make sure the blade is at the same angle as the table, just like when you use the coping saw. Start off the cut, a gentle tug back towards yourself, and you're clearing when you're going forward. Keep your hands on the handle. You clear when you go forward and you cut coming back the way. Make sure you concentrate with your cut. Nice and gently follow the curve and concentrate. Now that's my first relief cut is made. I'm still going to keep going down the way. That relief cut makes it easier for me so that I make sure I don't twist the blade. If I do twist the blade, make sure that you hold on to the saw and not twist and snap the blade. That's 2 parts of it gone. Now I'm going to go to the other side. Notice how I'm going really slowly with the saw, taking my time and concentrating. This is not a race. Make sure you take your time. Excellent. Now, we have this section is now cut. I've cut it on the inside of the line perfectly. I'll be able to process the rest of it using both the coping saw and the tenon saw. But very quickly, we're very lucky to have a bobbin sander in the school, so I'm just going to show you how to use it. Just get myself set up here. So I've got my bobbin sander. Make sure that when you're using your bobbin sander that you have your glasses on. Even if you wear them, make sure you put on your safety glasses anyway. The green button switches it on. The red button switches it off. Switch it on. Make sure that the woodwork is level on the table. Keep your hands well back off the bobbin sander. What it does is it goes up and down and sands at the same time. Do not touch the cutting cylinder. Make sure you do not do that. Now, make sure you do not have any loose clothing. Make sure you got your apron on. Make sure you concentrate. So I'm now going to... and I move it over and back. And as you see here, you've got a quite accurate finish.